Hey y'all, Mr. Thibodeau here. So let's go ahead. We are doing lesson 29, multiplying fractions, reducing fractions by dividing by common factors. Uh, this is super important stuff. You use this really frequently. Multiplying fractions is going to be very easy, you're going to find, so that's not going to be an issue at all. And then reducing fractions by dividing by common factors. This might be a little trickier, but not by much. You're doing your power up or your mental math and then your problem solving. So multiplying fractions is actually going to be essentially dividing. You're getting smaller. And what's happening here is when you are multiplying 1/2 by 1/2, right? You're trying to figure out a half of a half, and so you're going to get 1/4. It's going to get smaller. What you're essentially doing when you are multiplying by a half is you are dividing by 2. And the way we look at this, right, if I have 2 times 2, right, that equals 2 times, right? 2 and 2, which equals 4, okay? If I have 2 times 1, that just equals a single solitary 2, right, which equals 2. So if I'm multiplying by a number bigger than 1, it gets bigger. If I multiply by 1, it's the number itself. So it stands to reason if I start to multiply by a number less than 1, then I'm going to have less than the number, right? Multiplying is essentially shows how many times that number shows up. So if it shows up 1 time, that's multiplying by 1, that's 2, okay? In this 2 times 1, that's 2. But if I'm timesing it by a half, that says that 2 is showing up half the time. That is half of what 2 is, okay? Which in this case equals 1. This is also would be the same as saying 2 divided by 2, which equals 1, okay? That's the kind of concept behind it. Now, you don't necessarily need to know all of that to know what to do, because what to do, the actual work you do here when you're multiplying fractions is exceptionally easy. If I have the fraction, I'm not going to use 1/2 by 1/2. I'll use something harder. I'll use 3/5 times 4/7. Okay? You're like, oh, wow, that looks crazy. It's not. It's just 2 multiplications. 3 times 4 is 12. 5 times 7 is 45. That's it. Okay? Now, you do have to reduce this. And 3 is going to go into both of these. So when we're talking about dividing by common factors, 3 goes into 12 4 times, and 3 goes into 45 15 times. And so my answer is 4 over 15. Okay? So the only other step here is sometimes you have to reduce. But all you're really doing is 3 times 4 and 5 times 7. And then that's the math. Now, 4/15 is going to be smaller than both of these numbers, and that's fine. Okay? But that's what we're doing here. Okay? So the concept here that I want you to know is that when you're multiplying by a fraction, you're essentially dividing. Okay? But you're essentially, the number is getting smaller, unlike other multiplications. But the actual work you do is very, very easy. Okay? Now, when we go to reducing by the common factors over here, now for this, I'm going to move this up a little bit. For this, what we're doing, we do have to find the common factor, and that's the harder thing. All you really are doing here is you're trying to find a factor that works for both of the numbers so that you can get it so that it is its most simplified form. Okay, and the reason is if I'm looking at 6/12, that does not make as much sense to me off the top of my head as 1/2. I know 1/2 is 0.5. I know a lot about 1/2. I deal with 1/2 a lot. Very rarely am I dealing with specifically 6/12. Okay. When we are doing all of these, it is if you use your greatest common factor, okay, you go directly from your number to 1/2, okay, or you go from the number that starts off to your fraction. If you just use a common factor, like in this case 2, you get 3/6, but now there's another time you have to do it again. So using the greatest common factor allows you to do less work. Okay, you only have to do one division instead of multiple. But you still get there. If you don't know off the top of your head the greatest common factor, but you do know some of the common factors, for instance, 2 is a common one, then just use that and you can reduce it a number of times, okay? So knowing the greatest common factor saves you time and energy, but it is not a gatekeeper. It doesn't block you from answering the problem, okay? So I think you guys should be able to go forward with that. What I would like you guys to do is let's do 1 through 10 all, and then 11 through 29 odd, okay? So the work today, the written practice, 1 through 10 all, and then 11 through 29 odd, okay? All right, guys, have a good one.